Ditkoff. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, here we go. We got 1 minute now.
Voice, but I don't
No
see
matter, no matter how many times you practice, something still goes wrong at the last minute.
But it's very high on the screen. I only see the bottom part.
You have to hit slideshow. Hit slideshow.
That's better.
No, you have to hit slideshow.
You will find that Zoom works differently based on your software.
Oh.
Steve Corker has Windows 7, so he can use Windows Screen Viewer to show his slides. I have Windows 10. I have Windows 10. You can't do it that way. You have to put all your slides into PowerPoint.
Oh.
And I don't know what happens if you have Apple. So it works differently based on your computer. Okay? All right, it's 7:30. We've got
Mike, you have to hit slideshow. You have to hit beginning slideshow.
No. I will click on the slides individually.
Okay.
Right.
Good.
I will click on the slides individually, or the slideshow will become a runaway train, and I won't be able to keep up with it.
Oh.
So I'll click on it. So welcome to New York Railroad Enthusiast September Zoom meeting. I am Michael Ditkoff. I'm a member of the board of directors. My main responsibility is social media director. I run the group's meetup group. I'm also the editor of our newsletter, The Bulletin, and I also handle our website. This is my third annual presentation on the Denver and Rio Grande. 2 years ago, I gave a presentation on the Cumbers and Toltec, which is part of the former Denver and Rio Grande. Last year, I gave a presentation on the Durango and Silverton, which was also part of the Denver and Rio Grande. And today I'm going to present what is actually the Denver and Rio Grande. Now, even though the railroad is a fallen flag, as a railroad aficionado, I will always call the railroad Denver and Rio Grande. Even though it's owned by Union Pacific, I will always call it the Denver and Rio Grande. No differently, for those who are New Yorkers, I always call the RFK Bridge the Triborough. And I will always call and I will always call the Tappan Zee Bridge the Tappan Zee, even though that would upset the governor because he named the bridge for his father. So as a stubborn New Yorker, I don't change the names. I go with the original name. Every year I try to have a railroad vacation. So in 2019, I rode Amtrak from Denver to Grand Junction and returned, round trip. Then on the 8th, I drove to Glenwood Springs, and then I drove back to Georgetown, trying to get as many shots of the railroad as possible. Sometimes the railroad parallels a highway, and sometimes it doesn't. I stayed in Georgetown, Colorado, because the next day I rode the Georgetown Loop Railroad. And after I rode the Georgetown Loop Railroad, I drove about 250 miles south to Canyon City to ride the famous Royal Gorge Rail Line. When I go on a trip, I try to get a copy of the latest employee timetable. This is the one that I had until about a month before when I went to eBay. I got the current one that was effective November 2015, but I didn't want to take another picture of it. Just to show you a brief idea of what's inside, if you take a look, and I'll make this larger for you, up at the top, they give all the AAR radio frequencies. Since my scanner is not an AAR radio, I have to put in the numerical equivalent, and I punch those numbers into my scanner. And I will be writing an article about railroad frequencies probably in the December issue. This is a schematic map of the railroad. Shows you where all the interlockings are. Gives you the names of the interlocking and the mileposts. What you see over here, for example, it says Leyden. It says 11.9, it says 13.4. I'll make this a little bigger for you. So the east end of the siding is at 11.9 and the west end is at 13.4. They have a code of DS0112 for 11.9 and DS013 for 13.4. These are the interlocking numbers at the train control center. So if a traffic controller wants to throw a switch into reverse position at Leyden on the east end, he would punch in the code DS012. And at the other end, the code would be DS013. The numbers are pretty close to the mileposts. So you see over here at Clay, it says 21.2, they decided to use 20, and 21.8 is close to 22.2. These numbers you see in here, 5.5 and 6.7, that is the length of the siding. Mm-hmm. So you can see it's basically a single track railroad with a lot of passing sidings. Mm-hmm. This chart over here shows you the elevation. So it shows at Denver, it's roughly 50, and the maximum height is in the tunnel, in the Moffat Tunnel, between East Portal and Winter Park, where it goes up to about 9,000, here it is, you can see it's about 9,300 feet. So the distance from Denver to the tunnel is 50.2 miles. Of course, it's not in a straight line. So about 50 miles, you climb about 4,000 feet. Wow. Over here, this is the Glenwood Springs subdivision. The railroad splits at Bond, B-O-N-D, where part of the railroad goes up to Topanis, and the rest of the route goes out to Salt Lake City. The code that you saw in the other table for DS, that stands for Denver and Salt Lake, because before they had to plan to build the tunnel, they were going to go through the mountain through Rollins Pass. So DS stood for Denver and Salt Lake, because this is not part of the original Denver and Rio Grande. The original Denver and Rio Grande went south to Pueblo. And at Pueblo, it turned west or northwest and went up through Tennessee Pass up to Dot Cero. So you can see here is Dot Cero here, and you can see the number has changed. It says 156 and 342. Well, actually, Dot Cero is 166.8 based on miles from Denver. So all these mileposts up to here are from Denver. The milepost beginning at Dot Cero is from Pueblo. And again, you see over here the AAR frequencies. This one here, 5454, should be familiar to my friend Ken Byers, who is an Amtrak locomotive engineer. That's the number for that Amtrak uses in Zone 2. Between Washington and roughly Philadelphia. North of Philadelphia, they go to 6060, a different frequency. So you can see the mileposts. My plan was to go as far as Grand Junction, because the train was scheduled to arrive about 4 p.m. And I decided there's no reason to go on to Salt Lake because I would see absolutely nothing. So it made sense to go only as far as Grand Junction, overnight in Grand Junction, and come back the next day. That was the plan. Things did not necessarily go according to plan. This is the, nothing goes according to plan, according to Amtrak. This is the Burlington Northern BNSF timetable, because at one time, the Santa Fe built a line also from Denver to Southern Pacific, down to Pueblo. So these two lines were eventually called the joint line, where the Denver and Rio Grande operated trains in the south direction, and Santa Fe operated trains in the north direction. But now it's all controlled by Burlington Northern. And you can see over here, 20th Street is Union Station. And you can see Pueblo is all the way down here. And here you can see it says Canyon City. So part of this line, I think it'll be is, let's see, where is it? Where is it? Oh, I know it is. I know it's in the Union Pacific. See, it's his main track not in service. So this is Tennessee Pass is closed, and the Royal Gorge Rail Line, Tourist Railroad, operates from Canyon City up to Parkdale. I'm at Denver. I'm waiting for the train. I'll make this a little smaller so you can see.
Nice.
There's a private car sitting on track number 4. This is where the Zephyr usually comes in, but today the train is going to come on track number 5. Here's your famous picture of the train station with its travel by train. There's now a hotel in the station. At one time it was just a station. It's been completely repurposed. Here's the inside. They have restaurant. There we go. They have a restaurant inside. This is
nice.
the bus terminal. Yes, this is the bus terminal. It actually goes underneath the street, so you don't have to cross the street. Okay, the train has left Denver. This is UP's North Yard at milepost 3.2. It's extremely busy. It's extremely full. These tracks that you see over here, those are tracks of the commuter train, the Denver RTD, the Rail Transit District. It goes all the way out to the airport. See another picture? You can just imagine, you can see, you know, how big it is.
Michael,
And everything, and all you see.
he rode the Rio Grande after Colorado. Come here.
What's that? I hear noise in the background. Here we are at the station. Here, train number 6 is back in. There's a Y at the end. So trains from Chicago and Emeryville both back into the station. And then they'll be head out. Here you can see everyone's just waiting to get on the train. The train was about 5.5 hours late, but it's not all Amtrak's fault. You can blame it on Mother Nature. There's a lot of flooding in Iowa. And so the train was late, 5.5 hours.
Wow.
Okay, we have left Denver, and this area you see over here is called the Big Ten Curve. Now, considering I almost failed in New York State's geometry regions, I'm not exactly the best person to explain why it's called the Big Ten, but what I will tell you, if you think of a circle, the space between 2 points on the circle is a curve. And the amount of the curve is called an arc. So the Big Ten curve is a 10-degree arc in a circle. So you can see the train is going to be going through switchbacks. It's going to go this way. It's going to go up here and up there. I'm looking out the window. I see 2 diesels. I see 3 baggage cars. And I'm saying, boy, those are strange looking baggage cars. Well, they're not really baggage cars.
Somebody needs.
Steve, can you mute? Because
You know what?
I can't tell.
I think I'll mute everybody but you.
That would be good. That would be good. I don't know. It sounded like somebody was in pain.
Everybody but you and me, Michael?
What's
Michael,
that?
can you hear me? It's Ken.
Yes, Ken. So here we have 2. Here we have two dead AEM 7s.
Oh.
They're going out. Would like you to unmute. Yes, I'm going to unmute. Okay. Wait a second. Control A. Okay. All right, I should be back. So they're going out to Caltrans because they're going to electrify the San Jose line. And so they decided to test these two motors since Amtrak doesn't use them anymore, because instead they have the ACS 64 Sprinters. So when you think of it, that there's only two diesels pulling a train of about 10 cars and two dead motors, all I can say is I hope they don't get a hernia, because we're going to be stuck out in the mountains waiting for help. Here you can see I'm in the last car of the train, so that's why I can see around to the front. So first it may look like you got 4 diesels. Now you only have 2 diesels. Here we're passing a signal. See it says CPDS019? This is the home signal for Rocky Interlocking. This is the east end of the siding. Here we see the train going, passing Rocky. This is a photograph of where we came from. You can barely see the tracks of the Big Ten curve. Here's a better picture of the Big Ten curve, because it's 10 degrees between the tracks. Another picture of the Big Ten curve. One of the things that I had to become very good at was changing the focus of my camera. My camera has many features for photographing. Basically, I only use 2 features. One is called Vivid. This is called Vivid, but it only has a magnification of about 13. There's another program called Program that has a magnification of 32. So I have to keep switching between the 2 of them to get some good photography. So I can get Vivid, but I can't get as much zoom
Michael,
as using the program. Yes.
why don't you do this thing full screen and get rid of all that extraneous stuff on the side and the front?
Okay. Let's see if I
Look in the
can
bottom
figure out
right corner.
Right. It says bottom right. Okay, I'm in the bottom right. That says notes. That's
All the way
not
down the
it.
bottom right. No, go lower than that. See those things there? Something down. No, keep going. Or maybe not. Maybe, I'm sorry. Maybe it's up there where you are. But something will give you a full screen. No, large.
You're right. You're right. Wait a second. Wait a second. No, that didn't do it. Right, hold on. Okay, let's relax. Okay, we are sharing the screen. Pause, remote control.
In the brown part where it says VIEW view.
It says, wait a second. It says remote control annotate. Oh, hold on. Where it says, oh, I definitely don't want to leave because that'll make a mess. All right, hold on. What I really like to do is like
You've gotten out of that other thing, but either in the bottom right there's something that looks like a little screen next to the speaker, but I don't think that'll do it. Actually, up in the brown area under Zephyr PowerPoint, there's View.
Yeah, that should do it.
Click on
where? Fit to window?
Try Fit Window.
No, that didn't work. Hold on. Normal outline. Okay, hold on. View.
I know this could be annoying.
Just leave it the way it was.
All right.
If I could get back there, I would. You know, this is like Amtrak. They don't back up except to run over somebody. Okay. Wait a second. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Look down in that row. See that scale down there at the bottom, and then there's a Now wait a minute. Go two to the right. To the right. Yeah. Click on that.
Okay. Okay, now let's see, can I go to the next picture? Yes. Okay, it seems to work. Okay. We're now crossing what I think is the Blue Mountain Road crossing, and there you see an even better picture of the superliners, baggage cars. Now we are climbing, so you can see those diesels are smoking. Here we are at DSO 25. This is plain interlocking, and you can see that we have made elevation. And here is the box that has the equipment for plane interlocking. See, CP for control point, DS, Denver, Salt Lake, and 025, roughly 25.5, roughly 25 miles from Denver. The actual milepost is 25.4.
That's called an instrument house.
Instrument house.
Or bungalow.
A bungalow. All right, we're coming out of one of the tunnels. It's difficult to, I'm shooting through the rear window of the coach. And when you take a picture out of the view liner, it's very difficult to eliminate glare. It's just, there's very, very difficult. I could not buy a ticket. They would not sell me a ticket to ride the engine. I bought a ticket to ride the engine on the Royal Gorge, the Leadville in Colorado, but Amtrak will not sell me a ticket. You know, even though it's June, there's still snow on the mountains. Here we are at Tabernash. Tabernash is after Fraser. This is the eastbound Zephyr. This is number 6. This is where we had our meet today. Wherever the two trains meet, it changes every day because somebody's late. Fortunately, we had to wait about 20 minutes for the train. You can see they got one baggage. These all superliners. That is the dining car. This is the not the view line, what are they called? The sightseer. And you can tell it's the sightseer because you can take a look at all those windows to see how different they are, you know, than everywhere else. This is the diner, and then these must be sleepers up ahead because generally they have all the coaches in the back of the train. I remember I gave a photography class to people who were waiting for the train. I had to tell them, don't shoot the train until you get the whole train in the picture. You know, don't be in such a hurry to take the picture. So finally the train has cleared Tabernash. What you can't see is on the fireman's side, this is the engineer's side. On the fireman's side, there is a Y. This is where they turn the ski train that operates in the winter from Denver up to Winter Park, which you're going to see in a little, we already passed Winter Park. We already passed Winter Park. But I did drive near Winter, catch a photo going the other way. Here's another instrument house. This is I-70. The top row is westbound and the bottom row is eastbound traffic. Here you can see the westbound and the eastbound levels. And another one. It's beautiful to drive. The worst part is it's so tempting to take pictures. That really is the worst, especially when you're going the other way. We have finally arrived Glenwood Springs. I mean, it's a beautiful looking station. The sun is setting because the train was like 5 hours late. So I could not get as much as I had thought, as I had wished. The next day, the next morning, in a short story, I went to my hotel and found out it was out of business. The owner, Nights Inn, had sold the hotel to somebody who wanted to put up a condominium or something. They never told me that the hotel was closing. I thought I would get my money back. I'm thinking, where am I going to spend the night? Fortunately, a woman drove up who used to work there and explained the situation to me. I said, well, do you think maybe I can sleep in the police station without committing a crime? So I went to find a hotel, a vintage hotel, which means no private bath, no air conditioning, but at least I had a place to spend the night. So the next day, the train is 3 hours late. So I have a lot of time to go walking through the town. This is the current Amtrak station at Grand Junction. The ticket agent was kind enough to check my bag through to Denver and hold on to my day grip so I could visit the town and not be encumbered. This is the old Amtrak station. Sign over here, it says, we're not here anymore. So I just decided to just do a lot of walking. And what I found is a lot of dead UP engines. Just filled, you know, it's almost like a cemetery. They're just all dead. They're all coupled together. They're not going anywhere. Fortunately, there was a bridge, a pedestrian bridge, so I was able to walk over, just get lots and lots of shots. See, nothing but dead engines. The station is right over here. And this is Grand Junction Yard. Another picture of the dead engines. In fact, I should have known that they were dead engines because all the engines have their wings. Bunch of tank cars obscuring the station, where you can see that the switch is lined in the normal position to take the train around the curve into the station. Strange as it may sound, found two Burlington Northern engines. Don't know where they were going. I was just walking around town. I figured, oh, you know, take a picture. That's one thing when you go out visiting, you just take pictures and then you figure out later, do you want to keep it? By the time you figure it out, do you want to keep it or not? You've lost so much time. Again, just filled with dead engines. All of them have the flag. They've got wings, but they're not flying anywhere. I have no idea how many engines there are, but they're all dead. You know, a collection, it's like a burial yard. All right, this is looking west. This is heading towards Salt Lake. I went to lunch in a restaurant because the train was not scheduled to arrive until about 1:30. And I figured they would stop serving lunch when I wanted to eat. This is Puffer Belly Restaurant. It's located near the station. They have cars all over the top rack, Railroadiana. See, all just Railroadiana, just. Now, this is from the National Association of Railroad Passengers. If you get really good at using it, they actually give you a timesheet of your train. So you can see, I already left an hour late, but by the time it got to Denver, see, it's 5 hours late. For those not familiar with the Hours of Service Act, no railroad employee, operating employee that is, can be on duty for more than 12 consecutive hours. Well, you'll notice that the train is scheduled in at 7:15 and out at 8:05. Well, the crew call time is 7:05, 1 hour before departure. But because the train is 5 hours late, if the crew shows up on time, they will run out of 12 hours before they get to Grand Junction, which is their relief point. So Mandy, the assistant conductor, told me that the crew dispatcher called her at 3 a.m. to tell her to go back to sleep, not show up at 7:15, instead show up like at 12:30. This is what is called as setting the report time back. So when the crew goes on duty, they will still have 12 hours to get the train to Grand Junction, because if they run out of time, the train stops and the relief crew has to come out to take the train the rest of the way to Grand Junction. And considering this is a mountain railroad where it can be difficult to get to the train, they will set the time back. But there was an assistant conductor they did not get to in time, so he actually reported to work on time at 7:15. So instead, they told him to get a room at the Crawford Hotel, which is inside the station, and stay there until 12 o'clock. The key is he has to be off at least 4 consecutive hours to stop that 12-hour clock from ticking. This is why it's called in the railroad industry as interim release. Amtrak does that on some of the Northeast Corridor trains, where an engineer may report to work at 6:30, get to New York, or maybe 10:30, but doesn't have a train back until 3:30, so he has to get an interim relief of 4 hours. Otherwise, the engineer would run out of time. This is the next day. The train left almost 4 hours late. Well, there's a story behind it. My train left Denver 5.5 hours late. Well, the day before, the train arrived 10 hours late, and it arrived Emeryville 12 hours late. So instead of arriving Emeryville at about 4:30 at night, 4:30 in the afternoon, it arrived about 4:30 in the morning, where you can see it's supposed to leave at 9:10. They can't turn the train in 5 hours. It has to be washed, scrubbed, the toilets have to be refilled, it has to be reprovisioned, new linens. So the best they could do was get the train out at 1 o'clock, which was 4 hours late. And you can see all the way up through Green River to stop before Grand Junction, it was pretty much on time. It did make up 20 minutes, but it did not fall further behind schedule. That night, we were due to, I'm sorry, there we go. We're supposed to arrive Denver at, where is it? It's next day, here we go. We're supposed to arrive Denver, all right. Guess it's not in the picture. Supposed to arrive Denver at about 8 o'clock, about 6 o'clock. We didn't get until 9 o'clock. The train was just so late. Okay, I'm just walking around, just taking in the natural beauty, just taking pictures of all the mountains. It's very picturesque. It's really beautiful. You don't get views like this on the East Coast. It's just wonderful to seeing nature's beauty. I'm on the train, I'm heading east. We've left Grand Junction. Again, it's difficult taking a picture because of the glare, but I'm going to do the best that I can. Passing some maintenance of way equipment. Here we see the 2 diesels pulling like hell. Here we are in Glenwood Canyon. Here we see again the eastbound traffic and the westbound traffic. Here's a better picture of it because I'm now using the Vivid lens. This is that program lens. That's a difference in the pictures. So I decided to stay with Vivid as best I could. Again, trying to get rid of the glare is a problem. I-70 again.
Michael?
Yes.
The other thing at the bottom is old US 40.
Yes. Yes, yes, I had forgotten that because I did take 40 for part of the route.
Was that old,
Because I was hoping.
that dome monument that used to be out there somewhere, that kind of G-scale size model of a dome car in the area where the dome was conceived by the General Motors engineer who rode the cab of a locomotive and said, people need to see this view. That was right along US 40 in kind of a pullover.
Oh, well, I mean, I did know about the GM engineer who came up with that idea because I just read a book on the Denver and Rio Grande,
Yeah.
but I would prefer to ride the engine instead.
No, well, that's the story. This guy was, a GM engineer was riding the cab and he thought, people need to be able to see this view. And he conceived of the dome car. And
yes.
And of course, you know about dome cars, but they had this thing on a stone pedestal for years. And it's now, or well, at least the last time I was at the Colorado Railroad Museum, which is probably 30 years ago, it's now there. But it was kind of a thing to point out or demonstrate how the dome was conceived and where it was conceived.
Well, I probably have a picture of it because we're going to get to the museum if everybody's still awake. We're going into Shoshone Tunnel. There's also an interlocking here. This is the east end of the interlocking for Shoshone Tunnel. Here we go on the other side of the tunnel. Again, I'm just taking pictures. The only reason I took this picture because Mandy got on the PA and said, there were eagles. I have no idea where they are, but I figured I'll take the picture anyway. I don't know if anybody saw there were eagles, but I have no idea where they are. Just, oh, they're in the trees. Yeah, okay. I still don't see them. Okay, here we go again. I'm in the sightseer car, which is towards the middle of the train, right behind the diner. Again, snow-capped mountains. You can see it's getting dark, and after a while, you know, this is Winter Park. And the reason I tell it's Winter Park, you can see over here, this is where the ski train stops, and here are the chalets that take you up to the top of the mountain. After the train dumps its passengers, it goes west out to Tabernash, where it will turn on the Y, and it will sit there, or it will come back to Winter Park where there is a siding. It all depends how much traffic there is on the railroad, and if the railroad can only operate with only one track. But this is a bad sign because there's nobody here. That's a bad omen. Okay, this is the next day. I have rented the car. I'm going to drive around Denver, drive out to Glenwood Springs, and parallel the railroad as much as I can to take pictures. And I did take Route 40 because I-70 is just too fast. This is the famous Blue Mountain Road crossing, milepost 22.41, 22.41 miles from Union Station. And this is what the crossing looks like. You can see that there is an S-curve down here, but I decided I wasn't going to wait all day for a train because I didn't know if it was going to come. What looks over here as a coal train is not really a coal train. It's really a wind shield. Those hoppers are welded to the rail. And it's supposed to serve as a windshield because the winds can be extremely powerful. And they're welded to the rail so they don't tip over. A closer picture of the cars. All right, I finally arrived at Glenwood Springs. So I have some time. I parked my car. There was a pedestrian bridge. So I want to get into a good location to take a picture of the station. It's a very picturesque station. Here we are looking westbound towards Salt Lake. This is CP 360. CP 360. There are three of them at Glenwood Springs: 359.7, 360.5, and 362.2. Right, the signals are red in this direction, but number 6 is headed straight for us. And the reason it's on track number 2 is because it's going to pull into the station. You can see the train is coming off the single track and is now coming onto the it's coming onto the double track. You can see how the train is curving because it is taking the interlocking. So now the train has cleared the interlocking. This is about as close as I want to get to the train. Train has left Glenwood Springs. This is Grizzly interlocking, which is about 5 miles east of Glenwood Springs. Again, you can see those diesels are smoking. Here are some of the superliners. These look like the sleepers. I then went to Bond, B-O-N-D. This is where the train originally went towards Denver and went to Salt Lake. Now it goes as far as to Craig. You can see there are about 9 diesels on the head end. I have never seen a train with so many diesels. And I'm sure all of them are working really hard. I have no idea as to how many cars.
Michael?
Yes.
Craig is as far as the Denver and Salt Lake got. They never finished the Salt Lake. And it still exists. But
right, it exists.
First of all, it went over Rollins Pass, and then subsequently they built the Moffat Tunnel. Moffat was the builder to Denver and Salt Lake, and that was a joint thing with the city to supply water to Denver, as well as avoid Rollins Pass for the railroad. And subsequently, they built this connection between the Rio Grande that came up from Pueblo and the Denver and Salt Lake, and dot zero, which is literally zero dot at the west end on the Denver and Rio Grande, and Orestad is where the connection met the Denver and Salt Lake. And Bond was somewhere east of that.
Yeah, Bond is about 30 miles. Bond is 130.8, and
yeah, but Craig is as far as the Denver and Salt Lake ever went, and it still goes there. I think it's still an active railroad.
Oh yeah, oh yes, it is. Oh yes, it is. Okay. Okay, why isn't this advanced? Okay, here we go. Okay. These tracks up here go to Greg. These are the tracks that are going to continue to dot zero and on to Grand Junction. This is about near the end of the line that goes to Craig. See DS for Denver, Salt Lake, 153 miles from Denver. And then it says, it gives you what is called the DOT number. I guess all the grade crossings have some type of DOT number, and there's a telephone number. Like if a truck gets stuck on the track, there's a phone number they can call that supposedly goes to the Rail Traffic Command Center, where they can say, there's a truck stuck on your track. So they can stop the train in time. And here you can see the switch. It goes from double to single at this point. And this is looking westward towards Craig. All right, I catch up to the train at Grande. Here you can see the two diesels, the baggage, and the sleepers on the front. The speed limit through here is 60. So the train is really moving. It's moving quite fast. The speed limit through the Big Ten curve is about 40 because of all the switchbacks. But on the straightaways, the top speed can go up to 60. The only reason I took this picture is so you can see what it's like building a railroad on the ledge of a cliff. It's really something magnificent to see how they're able to do this with pickaxes and dynamite. They didn't have, modern equipment. At Grande, it's a siding because they labeled the tracks. One is siding and the other one is called Main. That's M-A-I-N. This is Grande Station. No ticket agent. Amtrak has very few stations that have ticket agents. This is looking east. The next stop will be Fraser. The funny thing is the train used to stop at Winter Park, but the train no longer stops at Winter Park. It stops at Fraser. But if you say you're going to Fraser, your ticket will read Winter Park and your baggage check will read WIP for Winter Park. Here we are at, let's see, I can't quite, well, let's see, I've lost my Zoom capability, but this is 63. This must be Fraser interlocking, the east end of Fraser interlocking. There's a bad picture of the train. There's a better picture. I was able to catch up to the train only because there was police activity. Train was stopped and the police drove up and they're going to take somebody off the train for whatever reason. So you can see I had a chance to catch up. There's a limit to how fast I will drive. I refuse to drive faster than 90. Okay, you can see the signal is clear for the train to proceed on the double track and to go into a single track up ahead. Here you can see a sign about the Moffat. I'll give you a minute to just read it.
I can't see anything. It just says Zoom.
It just, you don't see?
Lost the picture. Did anybody else lose it? It just says Zoom. Uh-oh.
But you were seeing pictures before.
Oh, yes.
I've got the picture.
No, I don't have the picture. Now it says Zoom, but now it's blue colored.
No, I see clearly Moffat Tunnel, Rocky Mountain.
I see Moffat Tunnel, a Rocky Mountain reality.
Yes. Now, this was Moffat's vision, but he died before the tunnel was built.
I don't see anything.
You know what? Try clicking on Zoom. If it's a Zoom application, you may have just minimized it.
No, I say view image. I don't. Maybe that.
I'm not sure because I can see you, so you're still just attending. Your webcam's still on, and I'm able to see your video.
I can't see anything. It's just a black. Now it's a black screen that says Zoom.
I think you're in the wrong screen.
No, I'm on the same screen. It's just that the picture disappeared.
You may have minimized it.
No.
I have.
Oh, damn.
I won't do anything because I'm afraid
Okay,
if I
I
click
got it
something.
back. I got it back.
Right.
Okay.
I got it back. Thank you.
Okay.
I got it back.
Okay. So here you can, the main thing is it cut the grade from 4 to 2%. That's the main thing. The speed limit through the tunnel is 40 miles an hour. It takes about 9 minutes to go through the tunnel. Even though the conductor makes an announcement, stay in the car where you are, don't open the doors, you're going to get diesel exhaust into the car. People still come back from the, not from the dining car, but from the cafe car, which is below the sightseeing car, and they go between the cars and the doors open. You know, I can't tell you, some people just don't listen. Here's the famous picture from the outside, 1923, 1927. What you see over here is a door, and what you see over here are ventilating fans. When the train goes into the tunnel, they then close the door, turn on the ventilating fans to get the diesel exhaust out of the tunnel. And everything is configured that the engineer will get a signal whether or not the door is open or not. He can see the door is open or not, but when you're in the tunnel, you don't know, because all you see is darkness and you don't know when you're coming to the end of the tunnel. So they've got signals in there that will indicate whether or not the door is open. Same thing on the other side. Here is the interlocking for East Portal. It's 50.1 miles from Denver. This is the east end, the west end. This is the west end of the interlocking. And then here's another slide. Stay with us, Cora. Stay with us.
Why would it be East
I'm here.
Portal?
I have Windows 10 and I hate Windows. I hate Windows 10. It just suddenly things disappear.
I still have Windows 7.
I got Windows 10.
Why would the interlocking be East Portal if it's at the west end? That's the East End Portal.
Because the siding, okay, the siding has the same name at both ends. So it means East Portal means it's the East Portal of the tunnel. So East Portal siding has an interlocking at the west end and the east end, and they both have the same name of East Portal. The east is not referring to the east end of the interlocking. The east is referring to the east end of the tunnel.
Okay.
Then it talks about Moffat and his vision. He was on the board of directors. But eventually, his dream did come true to build to get the tunnel built. Again, another photo of the tunnel. I'm just taking lots of pictures. The only reason I took this picture, for those who don't know how high rail equipment works, there's a flange in the front, a flange in the back, but the tires provide the propulsion. Because if you put rubber tires on tracks, they're going to fall off. It's the flange that keeps the vehicle on the track.
Well, let me explain that this is what happens when you have a tread width of the tires that is wider than the rail. If you had like a pickup truck, the tread width is, through modified wheels, is made to be the same as the rail width. And so a pickup truck would ride on its own tires on the rail with those high rail wheels as kind of guide wheels. But in this case, you've got a big piece of equipment that has a wider tread width that is far wider than the track width, rail width, let's say, space between the rails, which is why you have those sort of spiral gear things that would engage the tires for propulsion.
Again, just a railroad built on a ledge. So you can imagine what it's like building this railroad with no modern equipment. Okay, you can see this is Rollins Interlocking. This is the east end, the west end of Rollins Interlocking. You can barely see it says DSO 43. The actual milepost is 42.9. 42.9, I guess it's closer to 43, so they call it DSO 43. Here you can see the two tracks. That's about as much as I could shoot because, again, I had to go to Georgetown. It was getting late. So the next day, this is North Yard again. This is near my hotel, very close to the hotel. The hotel is right next to the road where there's an overpass that goes over. This is the yard master's office. Again, a whole bunch of trains. You see there's fuel racks over here. Even more. Picture's not too good. Well, it's good for close, but not so good for distance. And it's tremendous. That North Yard is tremendous. It's 3.2 miles from Union Station. And these are the tracks that head towards Union Station. It was a fun-filled vacation, filled with lots of excitement. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, now we're finished. So now I guess what I have to do is give you a choice. Do you wanna take a short break? I can't say, do you wanna go home because you're already home? But if you want, the next, what I'm gonna show next is the Georgetown Loop Railroad. Does anyone want to take a break, or do you wanna leave, or do you wanna see the Georgetown Railroad?
Let's do
Well, I don't hear anybody.
Let's do Georgetown.
Okay.
You know, you're talking about how they had to use hand equipment to dig out those rail lines along the cliffs. Don't forget the locating engineer who had to climb up there and do all the measurements and the calculations and put in the stakes showing where to put the dynamite.
Yeah, oh yes.
Yeah, they had to go up there. They had to go up there with their mountain climbing equipment, nothing but just a transit and a rod and maybe a level, and you know, plot out exactly where the slope of the line was supposed to go, and they had to be the ones that measured it so that the Chinese or whoever it was could come in with their shovels.
Absolutely correct. Okay, I'm at Devil's Gate, which is the west end of the east end of the railroad. Silver Plume is up at the other end. I'm not sure what river this is. I just don't remember. But the train station is here. It's going to circle around and go over the bridge, over the trestle, and start climbing. Now this day they had.
Can we go back to full screen? Can we go back to full screen?
Oh yeah, yes. Once I figure out what did I do? Was this the one? Yes. Okay. Here we go. All right. Here we go. They had period actors that were going to portray law enforcement and crooks that were going to hold up the train. And I don't remember what crime I committed, but clearly I was really afraid this would be the end of my vacation. Okay, here's the train coming in from Devil's Plume. It's going over the trestle, and the engine is running backwards. There is no turning facility. There's no Y. So it will pull towards Devil's Plume, and it will be in reverse. It will pull towards Devil's Gate. You see they have a wide collection of equipment. Here you go. I rode this train, I think, in 1978. And when I decided to go back to Colorado, I decided to do it. when I rode the Cumberland, Toltec, and Leadville in Colorado, there was not enough time for me to ride the Georgetown Loop. But when I came back the following year, I said, okay, let's ride the Georgetown Loop. Here you see the engine, 111. These are some of the actors on the train. This one had a thing for me. That was I guess the highlight of the trip. You'll see. You'll see. Here at Devil's Gate.
Does she tango?
No. Well, she did a different type of tango. Remember, she's dressed up for like the 1800s.
Whoa, tell me more, Michael.
So here we are up at the trestle. You see, they can run the train around. They can run the engine around the train to change direction, but there is no why. This is I-70. Here we are at Silver Plume. So we went from milepost like 51 to like 54, so it's like 3 miles. It's not particularly a long trip. Here's their engine house. The train's in the station. They have to take the engine off and run it around and put it on the back of the train. Here's the water tower. Here's some, that's right, I lost my zoom capability, so this is the best that I can give you. It says 91, looks like 9178, well anyway, it's 9,000 feet above sea level, so it's about 4,000 feet above Denver. They're just waiting for everyone to get on. Now the engine is going in reverse, pulling the train down the mountain. There's that trestle again. Georgetown Loop Railroad. It's a rickety ride, so it's a little difficult to hold the camera steady. A beautiful picture of the water. They also have mine tours. I took a mine tour in '78. There was no reason to do it again. Plus, I had to drive like 250 miles to Canyon City, so I really didn't want to spend the time again going through the mine. Here, the engineer is what's called blowing down the engine. Sometimes it's called a boiler wash, to wash out all the sediment in the boiler. Of course, they have to do it when nobody's around.
This is clearing the cylinder cocks. But it's flowing the condensed water and sediment out.
Again, picture of the river. There's lots of pictures of the river. Here we come to a tunnel. It says 52, milepost 52.3, whereas Silver Plume was 53.9. So you can see it's not a long distance, but the train goes relatively slowly. And now the bandits, the crooks have showed up. They're now going to hold up the train. That's what, see? So I told you, she had a thing for me, and then 10 minutes later, she held me up. I tell you.
As a sucker born every minute.
Absolutely. Thank goodness she didn't know where I kept my car keys. Okay, here again, train's backing up. It's pulling the train over the trestle. There you can see the station and the tracks. The tracks continue a little more for the train to go into a siding to change direction, go to the other end. We're still pulling. And here is a map. Shows you we went here and then we looped around. We went up. There's that mine tour. They only stop at the mines on the way back. And you can get on the train at Silver Plume or Devil's Gate. It really makes no difference. And you can see there's a difference of elevation of 500 feet. Okay, that takes care of, okay, now we will go to the Royal Gorge. Royal Gorge operated over Tennessee Pass. Okay, here I am at Canyon City. I paid an extra $50, I think it was 50, 70. It didn't make any difference what it was. It was worth it. I rode the engine.
What about full screen?
Oh, yes, full screen. Hold it. Okay. Now, I learned something very interesting. I used to see in employee timetables the initials DTSF. I never really understood what it meant. You might know that in some cities, fire engines have a device where they can force a traffic signal to be green in their direction. Well, that's what DTSF is. The engineer pushes buttons that create a tone. And when the signal gets the tone, it will change to clear because there is no train dispatcher. The engineer dispatches himself. There's going to be one train that tracks anyway. So the only way to get that green signal, the clear signal, is he has a dial pad and he punches a code that's a dial tone. And that will cause the signal to come up. Now you can see over here, you can barely see, it says Canyon City. So, I mean, it's a very nice ride. It's the Arkansas River. You see the letter G. Okay, G stands for grade. And this applies to all railroads. G means that if a freight train comes up to a signal that's red, normally the train has to stop. But because of the G for grade, the freight train is able to run the red signal as though restricted was displayed. Okay, G for grade, because on some railroads, it'd be difficult to stop and then get started. Sometimes at signals, you see the letter D. That D stands for delay. There was, I don't know if famous is the correct word, but there's an accident, a head-on collision in Maryland where a MARC commuter train ran a red signal at Georgetown Junction, which is right outside Washington, milepost 8.3, and crashed head-on into the Capital Limited that had just come out of Washington. The train had a clear, what they think happened, the signal for Kensington is before the station, and then the engineer didn't remember really what the signal was. So the idea of that D is that if you have to stop in the station and you pass the signal, you have to treat that signal as restricted until you get to the next signal, unless you're in cab signal territory where you will follow the cab signal. So if the cab signal is clear, you will operate the train at normal authorized speed. That letter D is one of the outcomes of the national.
Michael,
what?
It's got nothing to do with cab signals. It's when you don't have cab signals. It's called, the D is for delayed in block. And it is just a reminder to think about what you had on that last signal before you take off. Because the MARC train had an approach at the previous signal telling him to stop at the next signal, which would have been the interlocking at the main line. And he made the stop at Kensington. He got the approach signal, made the stop at Kensington, and forgot about the approach signal, and went right down to Georgetown Junction and went through the stop signal and ran into the Capital Limited. But that was, and as a result, that was something that the FRA implemented, and the D means delayed in block, and basically it's a reminder for you to think about what you had on the last signal. But it has nothing to do with cab signals. It's what you do when there are no cab signals, because you don't have cab signals. to remind you.
Right, correct. Absolutely correct. But the idea was if you pass a signal and you stop at a station, you have to proceed at I think it's rules, you have to proceed at restricted speed to the next signal.
No, I don't know what the rule is, but it's basically, it's a reminder to you to think about what the last signal had on it so you don't screw up and run through the signal ahead.
Mike or Ken, I have a question. When the engineer comes up to the red signal and he has to punch in the code and then it clears, how does he know there isn't a train coming in the opposite direction? Who gives him that authorization?
Well, on this railroad, there's only one train.
No. It would not clear if the block was occupied. It's kind of a first come, first serve situation. And in the highway traffic management business, they call it preemption. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of ambulances and fire trucks have these to make the red lights change in their favor when they go through town on the way to some emergency. But in this case, you can ask for it, but you won't get it if there's somebody that has already asked for it.
Okay. I'm just wondering why you wouldn't have a head-on collision, that's all. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but in this railroad, there's only one train out there.
There's a fail-safe then, yeah.
But in this railroad, there's only one. But in this railroad, there's only one train at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the point of this is there may be more than one train at some point, at some time, and it guards against the head-on collision by, like I said, you won't get it. You may ask for it, but you won't get it if somebody else has asked for it already.
Why isn't this advancing? Oh, there we go. Okay, we're going deeper and deeper into the canyon. Just spectacular. And even though they have a dome car, it's better in the engine because you can open the window and there's no glare. Up here is the natural bridge, one of the photos of the famous natural bridge. This was one of the selling points of riding the train through the Santa Fe through the Tennessee Pass. It's a better picture. What?
Michael, it's the hanging bridge. Well, actually, that's just a suspension bridge that was built as a tourist attraction. But the bridge you're going to hit soon is the hanging bridge.
Right. But I haven't gotten it yet. That's why I didn't want to mention it.
The natural bridge is in Virginia.
Right. That's correct. This is the hanging bridge. Of course, I took a picture of the bridge. I didn't want to take it through the windshield because I thought I'd get too much glare, but you can see the bridge is supported by these beams that are built into the mountain.
It's literally hanging from those A-frame beams. That's what those cables are you saw.
Yes. This is a photo of the engineer. This is the throttle. I think this is, well, wait a second, I think I got a better picture. All right, here are the gauges. Here's the one that deals with the brakes. Generally, I think on Amtrak, the main reservoir basically has like 120 pounds. Over here, it says red. See, it says brake cylinder. It says 0. It should have 0, because if it's 0, it means the brakes are fully released.
Michael?
What?
On the left,
no?
The red is the main reservoir. That's the air supply. The white is the brake pipe. The middle gauge, the white is the train line brake, which is released at this point because it's at 110 pounds. Or I guess they're using 90 pounds there. And the red is the brake cylinder, which is the pressure in the locomotive brake cylinders, and it's 0 because it's not applied. And I'm not sure what the two right ones are, but I see main reservoir pressure, and I don't know what the white is. I mean, that would have been cab signal and timing reservoir and a cab signal. arrangement. Maybe this engine has cab signal capability, but it's not being used here.
Oh, there definitely is no cab signals on this railroad. Absolutely, absolutely no cab signals. Again, it's just magnificent. This is the builder's plate. Again, another great signal. We're getting near the end. This is the end of Tennessee Pass. The rest of the railroad is out of service. She says CPRG. RG, it will be 171, because Parkdale's about 170 point something. So here it says RG, which stands for Royal Gorge. But the train coming out of Denver going to the Moffett Tunnel, its code is DS. When the tracks come together at at dot zero, they continue with the RG numbering system, which
I
is why
would
you
suggest
saw.
the RG means Rio Grande, not Royal Gorge.
No, the
The mileage is from Denver, probably.
Oh yeah, yes, it's miles from Denver. But the reason I know it's Royal Gorge is because I asked the engineer, and he told me it stood for Royal Gorge.
Yeah, well, that's the engineer. That's not the engineering department. If it continues RG all the way past Orestad to Salt Lake, they're talking about the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad, not the Royal Gorge, because the Royal Gorge is only a small segment of this railroad, and the engineer on his train is not an expert on the engineering of the railroad.
Okay. All right, now here's a better picture. That's the radio, that's his coffee, that's the whistle, this is the brake. That looks like the reverser for forward and reverse. No, that looks like the reverse. I guess that's the throttle. Yeah, I'm really happy. Really, really happy. He actually let me blow the horn. So this is the station. This is the station at Canyon City. This is a picture of the hanging bridge.
How can a station in Canyon City have a Santa Fe logo on it?
Because, well, the Santa Fe, let's see. I'm not too sure, but I know that the Denver and Rio Grande built to Pueblo and then built west.
Right, but it could be Pueblo or somewhere south of there, but there's no Santa Fe Railroad up the Royal Gorge. Never was.
That's correct. That's correct. This is what the hanging bridge looks like. This is a photo of a photo, so you get a better idea as to what the bridge looks like. Here I'm on the pilot of the engine. They did not take this whole train. I took the first train of the day. They only took about 7 cars. It's in the afternoon when they get more people, they'll take the whole train. There's a diesel at the other end. So when they take the morning train, there's no diesel on the other end. So the conductor has to stand on the back and give the instructions to the engineer. Looks like they're checking the brakes. Wait a second. Okay, that's the last one. And then the last program I have for you tonight is the Colorado Railroad Museum. Okay. Here we are. Oh, that's right. I gotta go back to full screen. Okay. Here we go. See, it's close to Golden. That's where Coors Beer is located. 56 is 400 feet higher than Denver. This is an old CTC panel. You see there's a track diagram and there are various lights. Generally, the lights will light up when they throw a switch to set a signal. The light comes up that tells the train dispatcher signal displayed. It does not tell the dispatcher what the signal is. It just says a signal is displayed. The signal that displays is based on, well, is the train going to go straight or is it going to take the diverging route? If it's going to take the diverging route, the signal probably would be medium clear, medium speed, not to exceed 30 miles, medium speed, which is 30 miles per hour through the interlocking. If it got a clear signal, it would be whatever the top speed is in the employee timetable.
But it's
Yes,
also
yes.
dependent upon whether there's other traffic. And that's why he
Well,
doesn't know what the signal is. He knows if he's routing him to cross over or routing him to go straight. But then there's also the factor of other trains that may be on the line.
Correct. So you see, essentially, you know, see these two different lights. If he switches it, see it says L and R for left and right. So if he throws the switch, that control to the left, that's the L position. To the right, it's the right position. You can see there's a whole bunch of signals in between these two interlockings. Okay, here's a chance for you to read what this is. All right. Picture of a steam locomotive, the cutaway, so as to speak. It explains how it works. They have a lot of diagrams. I just decided to just take pictures of the diagrams. And then this is an explainer. This explains what the diagram is. But essentially, you throw coal into the firebox gets hot. The boiler is in front of the firebox. The water starts to bubble, creates steam, and steam is used to move the engine. That's the easiest way to describe it. And here they have the same thing outside. But again, I've lost my capability to zoom in, but it's essentially the same thing that was on the wall. This is engine number 30 on the outside. Now we're inside the engine. Here it is. Also known as Rio Grande Southern, RGS. One thing I noticed in the book I read about the Denver and Rio Grande is that when the railroad wanted to do, I'll call it sneaky activity, where, for example, they were going to buy up land to use for the railroad, they wouldn't have the Denver and Rio Grande buy it. They would create a subsidiary, another company, to buy it under its name to disguise the real ownership. Again, another picture of number 30. And by the way, according to the book, the Rio Grande was built as narrow gauge, even down to Pueblo, and even out to Mafatones, originally narrow gauge. Here's a better picture of number 30. For the Rio Grande Zephyr, when Amtrak was created, the freight railroads had to pay for Amtrak to operate, to run their passenger service. There were two railroads who did not join Amtrak on Amtrak Day. One was Southern, and the other was Denver and Rio Grande. The interstate.
The third was the Rock Island. Rock Island ran service for several years too, before they managed to get it abandoned.
I didn't know. I don't remember reading about the Rock Island books about not joining Amtrak, but I know that Denver and Rio Grande and Southern did not join. So Denver and Rio Grande ran the train, one train in one direction every day, except for Wednesday, because that was the 7th day. So that's why the name of the famous book is Never on Wednesday, because the Rio Grande never operated on Wednesday. Eventually, after years of taking losses on running the train, the Denver and Rio Grande threw in the towel and joined Amtrak. This is, these are some coaches. Restroom, coach number, there's a coach, Union Pacific Railroad, built by Pullman. Famous city trains, like City of Los Angeles. Again, I don't have Zoom capability when you do full screen. You give up some Zoom privileges, but they have a lot of explanatory material. Here they have something on dining cars, and here's a dining car. Here's the kitchen. Here are the seats. I have no idea what PE stands for. I know it doesn't stand for physical education. I don't know what the P stands for Pullman, but I'll have to take a pass on that. Then they have a sign that talks about railroad milestones for Colorado and the United States. Diagram of all types of freight cars. Here is a caboose. Rio Grande Southern is the inside of the caboose. And here's your explanatory sign. Museum had to pay for it. Wonder how much they had to pay. And then this is a explanatory. This is caboose was built in 1902, and eventually it made its way to the museum. It was last ran on, looks like December 27th, 1951. So it was in service for a real long time. Here they have information about the caboose. See, locomotives, balloon style smokestack. And then we get into the diesels, which killed the steam engines. This is, famous pictures of Denver and Rio Grande colors. I do have a photo of 5771, which is a F unit. Here they talk about passenger trains and comfort and different types of tank cars. You take cattle. I forget who it was, the president of the C&O, I think, what's his name, Robert Young, said that a pig could go from California to New York without changing trains, but you can't.
A hog can cross America, but you can't.
Yeah. Maintenance of way equipment. The galloping geese, which is basically like a truck on freight wheels, on flanges. I can only guess, I don't know for sure, but I know on maintenance way equipment, do not shunt signals. So for freight equipment, maintenance way equipment, they have to be given exclusive use of a track, because if they pass a signal, the signal will not change. Signal will not register that they actually crossed it.
This railroad was not signaled. It probably operated on train orders. You get written permission and you go. And it's worth pointing out, this is a car with a box behind it, and that box didn't have those windows when it was in service. That was for freight. They've added those windows so they can carry more passengers in it.
Got some crazy names of stops. Lizard Head.
Well, that's a rock formation that, I don't know, it doesn't look like a lizard to me, but it's kind of it almost looks like an obelisk, but it's a scenic spot on the Rio Grande Southern.
Here we have a more famous engine. You can see, I love taking pictures to really understand an engine. You have to understand, well, this is the main driving rod, then there are side rods that turn the other wheels. So it really takes time to really understand, how a steam engine works, besides understanding about boiling water, and things like that.
This is the Burlington 05B, which after dieselization did a number of trips out of Chicago. I guess that would have been the early 60s. And it's been, I'm not sure this is the one. There are more than one 05B around, but they did a whole series of it with this, and there was a 282 that was Burlington that's ended up on that Grand Canyon Railway.
I have not been able to figure out what DL and G is.
It's Denver. It's Denver, Leadville, and Gunnison.
Mm.
Oh, that became part of the Leadville in Colorado. Okay.
Well, out of Colorado and Southern, which was a branch of the Burlington, had a narrow gauge line that went to Leadville, but that was not this one. Although it may have been, this was a predecessor that became part of the CNS. I really don't know.
It was really part of, I think, it was Leadville in Colorado, came out of Denver and South Park.
Denver and South Park was a different railroad. It was standard gauge, I think.
Oh, yeah, yes, but I'm saying that Denver and South Park eventually became part of Leadville in Colorado. Another, oh, I went the wrong way. There we go. Semaphore, you don't really see semaphores anymore. Post office cars. And they have business cars. So you will spend hours here. You will spend hours here. And this was my last full day because the next day I flew home. The C stands for Coors. Okay? Coors Beer, which is in Golden, which is just a few miles west of the museum. Let's see. This looks like the, this looks like, no, what's this? Yeah, this looks like the throttle. No, this would be the throttle. This would be the reverser. That looks like the independent brake. That's the fan.
That upper lever is a dynamic brake.
Oh, dynamic. Okay. That's right. That's right. Okay, so this must be a what? So this one's the dynamic. This is the throttle. I guess that's the reverser then?
Yes.
I guess over here would be the brake.
That's the independent brake.
Independent brake. Don't quite see the train line brake. Well, who knows? It could
but that plate, it's lost in the reflection, but that plate you see attached to the control stand, that's the kind of the backboard that these different valves are mounted upon. That's
this I did not see where the box was. I just took a picture. I thought this was to operate this locomotive, so I thought, okay, just take the picture. I didn't realize it's part of a ride. Okay. Business car. Here we are. This is an F unit. And you can see this is what is called the AB unit, AB lash up, where, oh, both of these are powered, but the B unit will get its control, is controlled from the lead engine. So It's like an MU operation. Baggage car, and I think that's an observation on the back.
Can you back up to that one, Michael? It's worth noting, these are the units that ran that Rio Grande. These are the ones that the Rio Grande saved to run the Rio Grande Zephyr. And they added that baggage car, which came from the C&O, or was built for Robert Young's C&O. And, but it operated on that Yampa Valley Mail that ran to Craig on the Denver and Salt Lake as long as that train ran. And it was kind of a surplus piece of equipment, and they needed a combine for the Rio Grande Zephyr. So it was part of that.
Okay. Pictures about streamlined equipment. Here's the observation car, as I said, on the back.
Which is a very early Bud car. It's pre-World War II. And as you can see, it says Chief on it. It was probably operated on the Chief when there was a Super Chief.
Yeah, it says Super Chief. Super is in smaller letters up above.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that is Super Chief. Thank you.
These are called camp cars, where it's too far for workers to return home, so they spend the night in these portable hotels. See,
I've never seen one of these, but this was a Pacific Fruit Express mechanical reefer from the 1960s. And if you look, you can see the top cord for the, or the top runner for the plug door. And the windows have been added. That's amazing. I've never seen anything like that. But you can see where the mechanical unit was in the right side, lower right side. That's where the diesel generator was. But that was a PFE reefer that they turned into a camp car.
Here's a diagram of the different types of wheel arrangements and their names. I believe this is based on, there was the White, I think was it William White, W-H-Y-T-E, that came up with this numbering scheme, or this naming scheme. Okay, here is the roundhouse. Smaller engine. Here's the, not transfer table, a turntable. The turntable. Yeah, I've got something on the turntable. Right here they have information on the turntable. This is a SD42. It's also a tunnel engine that has bigger ventilators.
No, it has air intakes that are lower. Go back. You see that at the back of the engine, you can see where it's kind of a screen, and it's down low instead of up high. And the idea of the tunnel motors is that it sucked the air down low that was not as hot as the air up top from the exhaust.
See, it's SD40-2. Picture of the roundhouse. Description of the roundhouse. This is a snow plow. It's a rotary snow plow. And that is it. And I'm going to check. That concludes tonight's program, because we've gone through everything I said we were going to do. The Zephyr, Georgetown Loop, Royal Gorge, and the Colorado Railroad Museum. So I hope you have enjoyed this, because if not, I'm sure I'm going to get complaints in the morning from the president.
It was really good. Thank you very much.
Yes, it was really good. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Hope you had a good time, something to sort of distract us from what's going on outside our homes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike. Very good.
Okay, thank you, very much.
Thank you, Michael. Sorry to keep jumping in, but I'm just trying to help.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not upset.
By the way, I like your hat.
Oh, no. I still have it, but you see, I'm just looking at the PowerPoint. I'm not looking at the people. So let's see. Let's see. Now I really do.
And
Wait a second.
you might as well just get out of.
Oh, I know. Wait a second. Stop share.
Right. Yes.
There we go.
Now you see.
That's right. Here we go.
That's as
Okay.
close as
Well,
I want to get.
well, I hope you enjoyed yourselves this evening.
I'll unmute myself.
Yes. 1 second. All right. So until next time.
Well, the October meeting.
Yes, the October meeting. Yes. Okay, I'll be presenting that one. That'll be coast to coast, just conventions and personal trips in the U.S. and Canada, going back over the years, even some decades.
We're looking
Well,
forward
you
to
can
it.
all read about,
I said,
you
we're
can read
looking
about
forward
it.
to it.
Yes, good. Okay.
You'll be reading about it in the bulletin, which will come out next week.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
It snows out in a few days.
What's that?
Mike, I'll
What did
have the president's notes out in a few days.
Okay, then I need a few days to put everything together.
Good.
Well, glad you were able to came, and it's nice to see I actually even remember some of your faces. Because